All right, Commissioner Joe coming at you with another one-on-one. I'm gracious. He's been gracious enough to give us his time on this busy holiday. Travis Salisbury, newest member of the TPR Sports Keeper League. Travis, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. Commissioner Joe, how are you?
Just trying to grind out the rest of this week, ready for the holidays and ready for our big last 2 weeks of the season. But we have a lot to talk about. This is your first year, made it through your first season. How have you been enjoying the league? In your inaugural season with the Astrophysicists.
It's been going pretty well. I've been relatively active, I would say. I've made a lot of moves, uh, but it's, I will say it's gone perfectly according to my plan from the outset. Um, I I was left with basically a flaming pile of dog shit on my front step, and I had to try to stomp it out and not get shit on my boots. And I think that I've effectively done that, so it's going well.
All right, no, perfect. And again, you kind of alluded to that's where I wanted to start, from the beginning. Obviously
Hmm.
well documented, inheriting one of the biggest trash bag teams I think any owner could step into a league this competitive with from Buddy. So I mean, with what you were given, just talk to me about mindset, goals going into the year as with the pre-draft prep, from the start. Where was your mindset at and what were you trying to accomplish this year?
Well, I think that it was pretty clear what I was trying to accomplish. But when I first saw my team, I said, "Well, I'm not making the playoffs this year." So I could have drafted a team to try to be middle of the pack, but that's not my goal. The only reason I joined the league is because I want to win the league, and the only way to do that was to basically think 1 year ahead with the draft. And I felt that I could draft enough players at the top, hopefully to keep me out of losing the toilet bowl, um, and have me advance in the consolation bracket while mostly drafting rookies to get a good view both for keeper purposes and having value there. And that's exactly kind of the way it worked out. Not exactly as I had thought it would, but I mean, I said at the draft that I drafted Josh Allen as my main reason to avoid the toilet bowl, and Josh Allen turned into Jared Goff, who was the exact reason I have avoided the toilet bowl. So, in a sense, it's worked out pretty much as I had hoped.
Yeah, no, and again, like some of your top picks, obviously we started off with
Yeah,
trading away.
I will say, okay, that's what I was going to say is that I had the worst team record wise, yet my imprints are over the entire Final Four, except for Baden. Baden's team is awesome. That's a great team. I had nothing to do with that. But, Josh Allen's on Evan's team. Mikey has Devontae Smith and Josh Jacobs, and you have TJ Hawkinson. Two of those guys were the high point total for their position that I drafted. So Hawkinson and Allen. So you're welcome for $100, and Evan's welcome for $100.
Well,
But
200 actually, 200 for
yes,
that for those
yeah,
two. So
yes. So I I drafted pretty much how I wanted to in terms of getting the best value at my picks towards the top. I think that I probably wouldn't have had to sweat it out as much if I kept them, but they were the only reason I would keep them is to avoid the toilet bowl. That's genuinely the only reason because I wasn't keeping any of them going forward. So I made the decision that I would take the gamble of trying to improve my chances next year and risk the toilet bowl and hope that I got lucky, and I did. So, yeah, I I I feel like my children are in the Final Four in the playoffs. So I'm hoping that, uh, well, good luck to Baden too, but I hope that one of my guys helps one of you three win.
all right, no, it's probably perfectly executed with at least that strategy of like some semblance of veterans up top and then a lot of flyers, with rookies. It was almost a running joke every time you were on the clock in the draft room of, all right, which rookie is Travis going to take next? So when looking at this season, obviously we have the constellation and the toilet bowl. Thankfully avoided by you. We'll talk about next. But when looking
Hmm.
at the roster going into next year, you got a couple really solid rookies that came out of that crop. How are
Hmm.
you feeling about the keeper situation going into next year?
I'm glad that I have a decision to make, because the I think it's pretty. I've told anyone who's asked, I'm definitely going to keep Stroud, and I'm definitely keeping Sam Laporta. It comes down to Flowers and Achan, and by strictly numbers and potential, Achan seems like the right option, but that man can't stay on the field for one bit. He's slight and he gets hurt a lot, but when he's in the lineup and he's healthy, he's a 30 plus point a game kind of guy. So that is what it comes down to, and that's I mean my strategy worked in a way, but the fact that Baden nailed Puka Nakua. I mean that's the
Yeah.
rookie receiver, right? That's the one I didn't take, and that's the one that hit. So from that standpoint, that was a failure. But the tight end, I felt good about that. Laporta was always the one I wanted to get. That was the guy I really wanted before the draft. Um, I was disappointed in Charbonnet. I released him without even thinking about it because I was worried that Zay Flowers could pull off a -8 and I would lose somehow. So I just had to find a way to avoid that happening. And Charbonnet he was, even when Kenneth Walker was on the lineup, he wasn't really the production of a number one back anyway. So I wasn't going to keep him, dropped him. But yeah, it went the keeper situation. I kind of figured out who I was going to have keep, like the final four guys I was deciding between relatively early. You could tell who was a producer and who wasn't.
Yeah. No, it's definitely, put it this way, a very good problem to have. We'll see how the off season shakes out, but it's to a T. If you were going to try to rebuild, not only did you get three very valuable keepers, obviously they're all rookies, so you can use that rookie on the highest number, and really have some low round keepers that, down the road too, which is good. So now let's kind of shift gears. I know we were week 15, kind of the consolation bracket, toilet bowl staring you in the face, kind of newly acquired Jared Goff in place of Josh Allen. I mean, this got to be this is an upset of the whole, kind of playoffs and consolation so far. Talk to me about the feelings, the emotions, thinking about how you guys performed. How are we feeling now?
Well, I was telling everyone that I didn't think I was going to lose the toilet bowl. I thought that my team had big games in them. There were sometimes I would have big games regular season. I would lose to Baden, I think by 12 or something like that. Where I had, this is before the Stroud really boomed, but where he had 56 points on the bench.
Yeah.
So my team at times was capable of big numbers. Now, I got lucky. I'll admit. I cursed the New York Jets because they concussed C.J. Stroud. But in hindsight, that happening was the reason why I was starting Jared Goff. And if Geno Smith had been ruled out earlier, I may have started Drew Lock, who was on my team going into that week. So I got very lucky in that sense. And at the annual Tampori Christmas party, I was telling anyone that if Sam Laporta gets another touchdown, this is over. I was confident that it was a wrap, and I'm pretty sure I told you,
Yeah,
that when I saw that it was going to be windy and rainy in Buffalo, I said, Varun, the stats for the Cowboys are very evident. The Cowboys at home on turf are without question the best offense in the NFL. When they're on grass and in a way, they really struggle. And that's what I was clinging on to and saying that could be the determining factor, is that the Cowboys just don't travel on grass. Like, they're terrible on grass. So that came to fruition, and Dak was not good. Sorry, Varun. I mean, but it is what it is. I was very, very confident after after the Goff game. 5 touchdowns is preposterous. Laporta getting 3 is crazy. That's just luck. But it came at the right time.
and again, the guy that you ended up trading away Devontae Smith for, Amari Cooper, came through in a big way for you as well on Sunday. So you run the points back, and that's a big difference right there.
It was almost not, though. It was almost bad because I was going to start Noah Brown, but I was just like, he's Case Keenum's the quarterback. What? And of course, Noah Brown played great. Noah Brown would have been absolutely been better actually had I started him. But that last miracle touchdown by Big Joe Flacco was all I needed. I mean, that was former New York Jet great Joe Flacco showing up for me when I needed him.
Yeah, no, it's a great week for you. And again, avoid toilet bowl, avoid any punishment, which got to feel good, especially kind of with the outlook that you had coming into the year. So,
Yep.
I mean, we're looking forward in the consolation bracket. You're one win away from a top three seed. How are you feeling going into this matchup this week?
All right, I finally get to talk about this. Okay, I need to talk about this. When you trade away a first round pick, right, and you get a player, you're hoping he makes the playoffs. You make the playoffs and you make a run. If that doesn't happen, you are entitled to do with that whatever the hell you want. The fact that the trade that you made was not good enough to propel your team doesn't mean you have to reward the person that you made the trade with. You can start, you should be able to start whoever you want to start. Now, I already know that if Tom would have benched all his players, that team would have beat me because that's just how that would have worked. I'm so confident in it. But I think that it's there's nothing that says that there's a risk system or reward system where if you don't if you don't make the advance in the playoffs and you trade your first round pick, obviously the guy you got back in return wasn't good enough to put you in that spot. So you can take that out as you wish. If you don't want to reward someone for that, that you don't feel that you got the good end of the deal and you can control how the return is on the other side, you should be able to do that. Now, if Mikey would have missed the playoffs or lost and he would have dropped down, I would have had no issue, right? I would have no issue if Mikey would have. Because when you trade a first round pick, it's not. I trade a first round pick expecting it to be a top three pick, or I acquire a first round pick I expect it to be a top three pick. When I traded for Mikey, it was just that asset in general, a first round pick. It's not a set number. But besides that, looking forward to the game against Tom. Um, I I don't have a lot of hope, and I'll tell you, it's just I got lucky last week and beat Varun, and Varun holds Tom's first pick, so it's only karma if my team falls and it's a bad week, and Tom gets lucky and it helps Varun. I mean, at the end of the day, I can't be mad if that happens. I just wanted to avoid the toilet bowl. I think that everyone's hoping on the other side that Varun beats Brandon. I think that is the tremendous rooting interest of the league. And I feel bad because I know that Buzz really doesn't want to be in the toilet bowl, and I know that Sean has had to suffer through the toilet bowl before. So I'm anticipating it being Brandon versus John Finnerty,
Oh,
and I think that it'll be uh, Tom versus. I hope my team wins. You never know, but I think it will be Tom's team versus Brett, and I think Brett's going to get the first pick. I think
all
Brett's
right.
team's very solid. I think that his team's really good. I think that any other year his team could have broke out and been in this Final Four, but the things didn't go his way this year. But I like Brett's team. I think that Brett will get the first overall pick.
All right. No, and there's a lot to unpack and a lot that you said, and there's a lot of I've been going back and forth myself on the whole situation with Tom's pick going to Varun and everything like that. I think it's definitely an off-season discussion. A lot of
Because and it's a decision that Tom makes. I mean, if I'm Tom, also he has to think about: does he really want me with three rookie keepers and five picks in the first three rounds to have a top three pick? Is that something that he really would want? And if he makes a determination that he thinks Varun is a bigger threat going forward than my team, he's be able to make the play that he wants with knowing that that first round pick is where it is. I mean, if I was Tom, I would. I think that my team next year will be very good. And I say that, and to be the time I draft terribly, but based on what I'm keeping and what I have set up for next year's draft, I I think that besides I don't the moral argument is terrible. It's a terrible argument. The morality of it. It's a strategic play by Tom about who he would rather have a high pick next year's draft. That should strictly be what the determination is for him is who would I rather have a top 3 pick potentially next year. That's what it should come down to. That should be Tom's Alone's decision based on how he assesses things going forward.
Yeah, no, extremely good points, and a lot of again, there'll be a lot of chatter about this. The more I think about it, the more I'm on the side of, it's kind of tough for me because I'm an owner and a commissioner, so I have a
Mm-hmm.
league to look at, and I'm also thinking about it from an individual standpoint. And I've always been do what's best for you and do what's best for your organization. Now, and we're in my seat of like. And there's a lot of variables, and I'm with you on a lot of those things. But I think you just put it cut and dry with Tom in his situation. It's win and Varun gets a top pick, lose and you get a top pick. And knowing all and what's curious too is these are yourself and Varun, two teams that sold pre-draft for assets next year too. So
Mm-hmm.
very kind of a little irony, a little uniqueness. Definitely adds a lot of storylines going into this week, and things like that. And again, don't want it to go too long, but I want to, before I let you go, you've been one of the champions in suggestions, proposals, adjustments. And if anything, I actually find a fresh set of eyes on a league to be very valuable because a lot of us have been here 11, 12 years. You are the freshest eyes on this league now going through. You haven't gone through a full cycle of full off season prep and all that kind of stuff, basically almost there. But when thinking about the league, if you had to pinpoint a couple areas, one area of improvement, what would you like to see happen next year?
I'd flow this to you in this because I think that this problem that's come up is the most realistic problem going forward in terms of how things could shape out. Is I think that, and I tend to agree with you possibly regarding the champion not getting the second overall pick, but I think that the winner of the consolation bracket should get the first overall pick, and then every other person that was in the uh, final four of the consolation bracket and in the playoffs get put into a lottery for picks 2 through 10. And the last pick is the toilet bowl loser, toilet bowl winner, the winner of the loser of the consolation toilet bowl semi. So with that consolation game, so whoever the final four of the toilet bowl, the loser of the game between the
Yep.
two winners of the semifinals of that, and then the winner, of course, will get the 11th pick, and then the rest is a lottery. I think that's the surest way that wouldn't be an issue, right? If that's the case, it's an issue in a sense because theoretically Tom's team can go on a win, but it's not a guaranteed top pick just for winning this week. Because at the end of the day, you didn't make the playoffs. So unless you win the entire consolation bracket, it's in my eyes, you should be no better than teams who made the playoffs in terms of getting a good draft pick. You should get some reward for getting that far and being in the lottery system. And if you win the league, you're in that lottery too. So that and I think that would be a fun event, pre-draft event, is we have a whole lottery. You can even be the commissioner and you could do the lottery system. They'll show up who wins and who gets the picks. But I think that was an idea that could fix it. But other than that, I mean the league. You looked at the parity this year; it was great. I mean, besides me and John playing anchor, uh, the rest of the league was extremely competitive. There wasn't much difference between first and seventh. So how I don't think you can improve the league much more.
Yeah. No, again, and your idea about the lottery system, it's very intriguing. Adds a lot of, and it's The one thing I've always kind of thought about is, because anytime we make rules, they've always been exploited. There's been loopholes. There's follow-up rules to kind of cover up those things. And my goal as a commissioner always is to, increase competition, increase kind of the chatter with the league, and, try to reward winning or have to play to earn all the way through. So that's some of the adjustments we made this year. If anything, this takes it to another level, with this. So definitely a good topic, I feel, in the off season, for us to kind of run through. But I'll leave you with this, Travis. Last question. Last 2 weeks, what are you looking forward to, and what are your biggest, you know, takeaways of your first year? I'll leave you the floor with a closing comment.
Uh, my biggest takeaway is I didn't understand how self-centered Brandon was at times until I watched him look at the chat. But I'm just joking with him. No, everything was awesome my first year. I have no complaints. I think that everyone's in it to win, so that's all you can ask for, is that everyone's fully engaged the entire season. And I think that people care about the league, which in some fantasy leagues that starts to wane as time goes on, but that doesn't seem to be the case here. And I just hope that there's, knock on wood, there's not injuries, that all the top four teams left are as healthy as can be, and that it's just whoever had the best squad left, and not with injuries, just the best squad left is the one that takes home the trophy. And I think it's going to be Evan. I think that no one wants it, but I think Evan's going to win. I think that you put two Jets fans together and you put a bill in between them, and somehow that's going to lead to a victory. So
Call it a concoction from the Astrophysicists.
yeah, I apologize to you, Joe, but
Hey,
it's just it's, and I know losing to Ogle will be tough, but I just think that Joshy Baby's going to put up some. I told everyone, Joe Brady, new offensive coordinator, since he came in, Josh Allen's just been humming, and he's going to continue.
No, it's definitely. I mean, obviously, I'm biased. I would love to win myself. Haven't won in the league's existence. I always root. If it can't be me, I'm always rooting for someone who hasn't won before. Ogle would fit that bill. Baden would fit that bill. As Mikey kind of alluded to, it's a lot going on riding on him too. He'd be the first person to win 3 in the league. So, but more importantly, to close this out, Travis, love having you on the squad. You've been a fantastic addition, head and shoulders better than Buddy ever was, both from a capability standpoint, an engagement standpoint, idea standpoint. So
I also don't post vacation pictures with my significant other constantly on my Instagram story, but that's neither here nor there.
That's a conversation for another day. But Travis, I'll let you go. I appreciate the time. Good luck this week in the consolation bracket. And more of these conversations to come. I appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right.